welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.
Hi, hello. We are here. Uh-oh, hold on. We're all messed up. Ready?
Whoa.
Ready? Boom! There we are. There were two of me for a second, and we don't want that. We just want one of me. One is plenty of me. So yeah. Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of The Dungeon. I'm Harlan Kelly.
I'm Andrew Orvidal.
And as per usual, we have a special guest this week, and our guest is Trever, who is the creator of the sci-fi fantasy storytellers to TTRPG Veil of the Void. Thank you for being here, Trever. Appreciate
Thank you for having me.
Your time. We start every episode of our show with the same question for the folks who come and hang out with us on this TTRPG talk show. How did you get into TTRPGs? How did you start playing?
Well, I started playing tabletop games, role-playing ones, back when I was 13. We actually started with the first Pathfinder edition. Just one of my older friends was like, hey, you want to play a game? Came over. None of us knew what we were doing or how to play or anything like that. It took about 4 hours. We made a character, and right when we were getting ready to play, we went home. So that was my first experience. But then we got into all sorts of storytelling after that. So it was a lot of fun.
That seems like a classic TTRPG experience.
Yeah, I've found that's for the first one pretty common.
The accidental session 0, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, cool. Just a reminder, if anybody who is watching this has questions in chat as we go along, feel free to throw them out at any time. It helps us get to them too if you throw them out earlier. But you also stream games. You stream your own original games. What are you running right now?
Right now, we're currently just about ready to finish up, actually. Our very first Veil of the Void streamed campaign over on our Twitch there. They just finished up killing a massive dragon, one of the world bosses, and now they have an even harder battle coming up,
Let's go.
If you can believe that.
So tell us about Veil of the Void. Tell us about because this is your own original creation, right?
Yeah.
So tell us about it.
Well, Veil of the Void, as you said, was a sci-fantasy storytelling game. So its main focus is all about the fun of creativity, non-limitations, and the availability to really create and do whatever you can imagine, both as a player and as a GM. I gave in the rulebook, there's a whole section just for GMs about how to homebrew anything in the universe that you could ever want to do.
Hell yeah.
It's great because I've always wanted that in games, because I played too many where I don't actually know how to homebrew anything. So I wanted to make sure that every rule that I use to create balance and design everything, you also have options and access to. So I threw all that in there, and it's just a blast, whether you're GMing it or playing it. As I finally got to be a player the other day. Someone was brave enough to host a campaign for me. Being a player and a GM, they're both just an absolute blast. The most ridiculous and fun stuff happens in this game.
That's awesome. Andrew has also designed his own game, which I am running right now. It's called Duster, and I'm running a version of it right now. And it is. It's been fun to talk to Andrew about it. But Andrew, have you ever played in a game of Duster ever?
I have. Yep.
Hell yeah.
Cool. I've played in a few games I've designed, and I'm curious if you feel the same way. Do you feel very nervous when you sit in as a player? Oh God, this will be the game that something is so broken. I feel that a lot when I'm a player. In a way I don't feel with other games when I pick up, whatever, Tales from the Loop or something. I'm not sitting there what if there's a broken rule in this game? And I hit so many broken rules all the time in pretty much every game. But with my own games, I feel so apprehensive for sure. Do you feel that way?
I actually don't.
nice.
Veil of the Void is something that I specifically list in the book that it's perfectly okay to be broken,
Cool.
because there are tons of rules in the GM's guide about how to counteract everything that could be broken. I did a lot of testing with this. I mean, this is like 7 years of testing,
Oh,
which
wow.
still isn't even a lot. You know, there's way more that I could be doing, but I feel very confident in the rule book. And besides, half the time I ignore the entire rule book myself, and I'm the
Yeah.
one that wrote it. So if a rule doesn't work, we just kind of go, here's the rule to counter that.
Yeah, that's
I love it.
awesome.
That's what I try to tell people. I'm like, it's your game. Actually, I might have
Yeah.
wrote down a lot of these ideas, but when you're running it, it's your game. So if
Oh,
you
yeah.
decide something's different, go for it.
Exactly. And that's how rule books should be, you know, because like we have an idea of like how our universe and game should be, but then when we give it to someone else, it's like, no, you need to understand it's yours as well. You know, make it, you know, you're the one hosting it.
Totally.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah. So and we also we run a sci-fi fantasy game every Monday, but we do Spelljammer, which we've been doing it for 2
Nice.
years, and it's kind of it's a wild thing to have it be official now. But it's
Yes.
taken a lot of that similar thing, like finding your own path and just kind of like running with whatever you whatever makes sense in the moment too, especially when you're dealing with these like vast things. You know, as someone who has designed a game system that that you find that it's like intentionally for people to be able to homebrew things themselves, make up things themselves. Do you find that like what elements of your game do you think like helps enable that, especially in a world where so many things are possible, you know, and you're going around to different planets?
Well, I think like the ability to really just build, especially for GMs in general, because I've always found the most difficult thing is coming up with like an encounter. But I actually have an equation in the book just designed to quickly calculate the amount of HP you need for your monsters in the fight. So really you can do any encounter you want, regardless of how many creatures you have, based purely on that. So from a GM's perspective, that's been the easiest thing to help me.
Yeah.
And I even made a character sheet now where all you have to do is put in how many players you have and what their level is, and it auto calculates it for you too. So that's been one of the biggest helpful things. But I also have a like 4 pages of detailed like 7 to 12 point guides on how to build everything. And the most I've seen people do in particular is like building their own adversaries and making their own classes. I'm surprised and like blown away how many people have made their own class, and they're like, oh, it's so easy to make this. Like you gave us a really detailed guide on how to do it. I'm like, oh, thank goodness.
That's very cool. I love it. Yeah, I use equations for a lot of my enemies too. I'm like, I hate having to consult like a monster manual and stopping the game. And
oh yeah,
I just can know it's great.
Yeah. No, I hated doing the CR levels. Whenever I GM'd things, I was like, well, how do I figure this out?
And even when you do it right, you're like, I don't think it's right. I don't think that.
I don't think. Oh, I killed my players. How did that happen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
or
the old CR rating.
Yeah, the level 11 party just squashes your big bad boss. It's awesome.
That's never happened.
Right? That's never happened in my life ever.
Not once. So yeah. So what's your what games what got you to the point where you're like, okay, cool, I want to make my own game here. Like I'm playing this game or that game, and I'm running into something, and then what I want to do here isn't like kit bash things or break things that are of somebody else's game. I just want to go ahead and make my own thing. What really like pushed you over that hurdle?
Yeah, so when I was 10 years old, I started designing the universe, coming up with a lot of fun ideas. Yeah, so Veil of the Void's almost actually 20 years old now, which is insane. But about about 9 years ago or so, I was like, you know what if I tried to make this into a tabletop game? I wanted originally to make it into a video game, but I was like, I don't want to go to school for that. That's a lot of knowledge and stuff and expenses that I won't be able to afford. So I was like, well, I enjoy tabletop games, so let's just see if I can like homebrew it in a game system that I've already played. And I tried like 3 or 4, and I was like, well, it still doesn't fit my idea of like, creativity and allowing anything to happen, while still trying to maintain balance. So eventually I was just like, screw it, I'll just make my own and see if I can bring stuff in. And then really, I asked myself a lot because I've read about 300 rule books almost, which is,
wow.
I don't recommend anybody doing that. You can stop usually about 100. And I wanted to make sure I was like, well, what don't I like about these rule books so that I could make my own rules that really don't mesh with other games and don't copy them, So I was really wanting to do something like, well, I want this game to be mine and be something I can enjoy. So 6 years later now, we've got Veil the Void Reforged, and Yggdrasil's on its way now too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. What was the second thing you mentioned in that?
Oh, Yggdrasil, our Sign Norse expansion. It's the first expansion for our to the book, and it's actually going to continue the lore, give tons of new. I think we have like 5 new classes. We've got like a total of like 12 different new specializations you can dive into, 4 different species, tons of new ancestral paths, massive guide on traveling through space because I wanted to make sure that got in there, and that's just the beginning. I think there's going to be like 300 something, maybe 400 pages in this one. So wow. It's quite the encyclopedia expansion.
That's fun. It's fun.
Yes.
That's awesome.
We're happy with it.
Are there any game mechanics that you did pick up from other games that you're like, oh, I really like this, I'm going to put like a version of this in mine? For example, I really like stress in games, whether it's the Alien game or Blades of the Dark or whatever, just kind of like a scale. And so I wanted to incorporate a version of that in my game. Are there any mechanics like that you kind of picked up and you're like, oh, it'd be cool to include a version of this in my game?
Yeah. So I didn't do that for a lot of stuff, but I did. I always liked fate points and how you can kind of like adjust your rolls a little bit, like with a little bit of like luck in there. But so I kind of run with that idea, and then I was like, well, how can I make it a little bit better, a little bit more of like what I was looking for? So then I created the determination system, and it lets you do a little bit more than fate points do, while still keeping a balance as much as you can. So that was like, that's the immediate thing that comes to my mind about something that kind of affects dice in a way that kind of fate dice do. Or fate points.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, and what about I find a lot of difficulty, especially with like science fantasy games. But I'm a huge like ship fan.
Oh, yeah.
Like putting ships in games, and but they are their own game. Ship for ship combat, or like utilizing ships, like upgrading them, etc. How do you address that in your game?
Okay, so I originally had way more pages in there than needed to be. I really compressed it just because I wanted to make sure everybody got the rule books and everything they need inside this book without being completely overwhelmed with learning new rules. So I have the whole vehicle section in there, and it's got a whole breakdown of like how starship combat works. And, every person has a role in there. So, there's a captain's chair, a communication officer, an engineer, weapons master, and every player can take on one of those roles and get bonuses. I have non-space vehicle combat. So like if a starship lands on a planet and you want to blow someone up, you get extra damage and automatic criticals and stuff. I have space travel and everything it takes, custom expertise and things you can give your starships, like flying the colors, which gives you like an auto hit die to intimidation, stuff like that. And then I added like some custom vehicles and cool like shield arrays and equipment that you can use to upgrade your item. But I didn't add all of the complex stuff that I wanted to add. But that's coming in Yggdrasil.
All right,
That's going to
let's
be
go.
like 25 pages of maneuvers you can do as a crew, additional rules for travel, giant space worms and how they can consume you, and they have planets on the inside of them, and all this other stuff. So I really went crazy with it originally, but then I was like, okay, I want this game to kind of also be friendly enough so people don't get overwhelmed with everything in the universe.
Yeah.
And then just give either free content, which I have a ton of free spaceship and star combat stuff for free as well right now, and then add more in a cool expansion for people too.
That's awesome. Yeah, that feels
That
like
rules.
a good, like,
Yeah.
that feels like the way to balance it is having like, here's a
Yeah.
quick version if you want it, but also here's a million rules if you want those too. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. And that's how it is in the core rulebook. It's like the nice simplified version, still really fun. Like I still love throwing, space combat in there. Everybody feels like they're still doing something and they're working together as a team.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have all of the insane, like 30 extra pages of rules of fun stuff you can do. And I'm like, I'll give out a lot of that for free because I just don't want to overwhelm people.
Right,
I want
right.
it to be as new user friendly as possible.
You don't have to have
Definitely.
this in order to do it. Right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's optional and it'll make it a lot more fun, but I don't want it to be mandatory extra knowledge.
Is the game world kind of like fairly it's almost like No Man's Sky where you could just kind of go somewhere and roll and boom, there's a planet?
So we're actually getting ready to add that. But in the core rulebook, there's a huge the last, like, I think 100 pages of the core rulebook are all dedicated to lore. And so I have all of the species home planets in there. I have a galactic map. I have definitions of a lot of like core places that you could, settle as planets, things like that. But again, it was I wanted to give them as much as I could without overwhelming them. So we're making and working on right now a planet generator, so that people can easily create and know their own like core planets and stuff like that. But in the core book, there's like the 10 base planets. There's a ton of definitions on realms and what the realms are like and what their effects are. So you're never really going to be stuck in one place. It definitely encourages your players to travel between different places. Or you can just stay on one planet the entire time. It's really up to however you as a GM want to run it. But I tried to give as much content as possible without overwhelming people.
Yeah, I know how that goes, like, especially with planets of all things. It's like they could be so huge.
Yeah, and there's so many good planet generators out there as it is right now, that I always found that was kind of easy to use. I wanted to make sure though that anytime I mention a planet, it's definitely in the core rulebook, so that if they ever want to go there, they know exactly what it's like.
What's your favorite planet generator?
Oh gosh, I don't know the name off the top. I'd have to bring up my bookmarks here.
Okay, yeah. You don't, not to. I'm not testing you. I'm just more trying to steal it from you.
Yeah, let me see.
So,
I think NASA has one that I really enjoyed.
no way, like the actual NASA.
Yeah, I
Man,
think it was
they
like
have
called
so
the
much
Planetary
cool
Spectrum Generator or something like that.
That's so awesome. They have so much cool like free stuff on their site.
Oh yeah,
that they just like get. Yeah, there's so much cool audio too. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever like. Yeah, it's very cool. NASA
no,
rules.
their website's great. If you've never been to the NASA one and you're running something sci-fi based, definitely recommend it.
Nice.
But yeah, I think they have one called the Planetary. I can't remember it. It's a generator on their website for free.
Okay,
though.
cool. NASA's Ttrpg generator. Got it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly the intended use for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, whatever. All those good dudes play D&D, I bet.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's your favorite monster that you've made for this world, for your world?
Oh man, that's such a difficult question because I love so many of my creations.
First one off the top of your head. That's
First one off the top of my head, probably the Mecha Ripper, just because it's amazing.
just from the name alone. Sounds
Right?
awesome.
just imagine. Well, there's actually artwork of him, but he's this half flesh, half mechanical undead creature that the undead specialization class, the necromancer, summons. And it's like this massive creature, it gets 2 attacks. It can tank for you. It can fill up hallways to prevent adversaries from running at you.
Cool.
One of its claws inflicts poison, the other bleed. It can rip things apart through reality. It's just really fun.
Oh, nice.
Through
Especially being
reality.
able to
Hell
summon
yeah.
it as a player at level 5.
Yeah. I like the idea of filling up a hallway with a monster.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's
it's
fun.
happened more often than not. Let's just use this giant metal flesh bag to block the hallway so that we
easy.
can get away.
Truly. Easy.
Mhm.
That's awesome. Well, quick reminder, chat, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them our way. Going once, going twice. But while you're trying to think of any, let's go ahead and whip out that random roll table if you want to, and we can get a question from there just to kind of cap things off, and then we can answer any other questions from chat, and we can go around the circle and I'll answer the random question that we get on there as well. So
Sounds fun.
we'll find out. I hope you have a D20 handy. I know we've talked about
I do.
that.
Yes.
It's kind of a joke on the show a little bit because people are like, yeah, of course I do. But we've had people just not had them in arm's length, arm's reach. So,
Yes.
yeah. So want to give you a chance to grab that. And Andrew, do you have the table?
I got it.
You got it?
Ready
All
to
right.
go.
So, Trevor, please roll away.
All right. Okay. Well, I don't. I got a 20.
Let's go.
Oh my gosh. No one's rolled a 20 in a long time. So
fantastic.
When you roll a nat 20, you get to ask us any question you want. Any question.
I get to ask you. Wow, that
Yeah.
feels like an honor. My goodness.
This is your show now. You critical
Oh,
success.
okay. Well, welcome to the dungeon here with Trevor.
I'm your guest, Harlan Kelly. This is your other
Harlan
guest.
Kelly and Andrew here, amazing individuals.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you a question. What's it like to be able to interview all sorts of people and get to host this kind of little event that you do here?
That's a good question. It's awesome. I think it's been a really fun. We started doing the show at the beginning of the pandemic, and it was just a really cool way to meet new people like that I would never have met. And it is kind of wild that we have just that there's so many people that we've never met before and where they're just like strangers and we immediately have something to talk about and can talk about that thing for 30 minutes. And I think that's just like a really special thing to just to get to meet new people. We've been doing it for like 2.5 years now, and it's weird that like some of our first guests are people like Jason, like God Mode, who we hung out with again on at JammerCon. I was like, I've known this dude for 2.5 years now because we've just been like we just like talk on the internet every once in a while. So that's been really cool. What about you?
Cool. And every single show I walk away with like at least one interesting tidbit as both a GM and as a player and a game designer. I always walk away with like something interesting or like something to think about and chew on for sure. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like every guest just like articulates something to me. I agree, Andrew. They like articulate something to me where I'm like, wow, that's exactly like I didn't know that before, but I feel like I knew that somewhere, but I couldn't have said it like that or known it until like right now. And so yeah, what a nice, thoughtful question. Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining me here. There are links for description will be in the button. Sorry.
Yeah, down here. You're right. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, great job with your show. Yeah,
you're better at it than us, so please.
That's awesome. But Veil of the Void is something that people can purchase, can check out themselves as well. And then you have another game coming out soon, right?
Yes, and we also have a demo book and several free pre-generated character that uses every character in the core rulebook up to level 5, so you don't have to do any of the math or figuring anything out. So you don't even have to buy the game yet to learn exactly how to play it and have some fun with it. So
Yeah.
I do
So,
recommend buying it though, because there's a lot.
So if you're watching this on YouTube, there'll be a link to it right here. We'll put one in chat as well. That's just like a link tree of a quick description of all of the easy things that you can just click through and find the game there. And you stream the game as well. You stream Veil of the Void, right? So
Yeah.
So they're just finished. You just said you're finishing up a campaign right now.
Yeah, we probably have about like 5 or 6 more episodes. But the fun thing is the campaign is going alongside another campaign that I'm running.
Ooh.
And for the very finale, we're going to combine both campaigns because they're progressing the story together. So that'll be fun.
I love a crossover.
I love stuff like that.
Yes,
too.
me too.
Hell yeah. All right,
It's
great.
fun.
Well, what? Go for it, Andrew.
Oh, no, I was going to say, when you're running 2 campaigns on the same timeline, it's fun to have one game affect things in another game without telling those players. So they don't realize like, oh, another group of players actually created this kind of mess for you to solve right here.
Right. And even better, one of my players who's in the Tuesday group is also in the Sunday group, and she gets to see simultaneously the stuff that she's done that causes her issues and the stuff that she's done in this one that causes her other group issues. So it's been really fun because she's like, I'll just look over when I reveal something. She's like, really? Dang it. I knew it was going to get consequences.
I know that stuff is so fun. Yeah, I'm running just in like in some home game stuff. I'm running 2 different tables, and those things are happening. But I also have there are 2 other GMs who are running games in that same world, and so we're all kind of like bumping into each other as we go along, and it's very, very fun. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah. So if you were watching this, you can check out Veil of the Void. You can see people play it. You can check out the rule book yourself as well through the links down below. If this is something you want to play, I recommend it because big world space sci-fi stuff can be so hard to keep track of and run, and it's cool to see a game that just makes it super easy, so you can feel confident just like running with whatever you want to. So
I tried.
I gotta check it out. It sounds right up my alley. It's a huge Mass Effect fan, Star Trek Next Generation fan. Sounds like something I'd definitely like.
Oh yeah, and if you like just good magic as well, I'm real happy with our magic system. It actually doesn't outshine the melee either. They both work so perfectly in unison together. It's great.
It's hard to do. That's rare.
It is. I can't tell you how much I had to struggle with this stuff, but I'm very happy with it. Yeah,
I know. We just did a big fight where the magic users were all out of spells, and the fighter really soaked up those hit points, with just the 3 attacks. So it matters. It's cool to be able to do stuff like that and and just to be able to play the game differently. I think is a sign of a good game. So that's awesome. Well, cool. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Trevor, thanks for joining us.
Always flies by.
It always flies by.
Guys, 30 minutes goes so quick when you're having fun.
Yeah, and we do have a little slogan we like to say at the end as a little sign off, and I'm just gonna not let Andrew forget it because he thought of it and has tried to get rid of it. I think slowly.
No, I've never tried to get rid of it.
But we do like to say, tip your DMs to get out of here because it's just a thing that they put in a lot of work. And next time, if you're watching this and you're a player, next time you have somebody run a game for you, just Venmo them $5 afterwards. It'll make their day. So
$2. It adds up to a sub sandwich the next day. Yeah,
it's awesome.
I was about to say I also take sub sandwiches for payment.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Tip them with
food,
a sandwich, a home baked chowder, something. Lemon bars, anything.
I was gonna throw this dragon at you, but now this lemon bar has convinced me otherwise. Thank you for your sacrifice.
You can just have a loot drop. Let's skip the fight. Here's your loot.
Oh
man, you brought me a cheesecake? Wow. Okay, I guess we're skipping over this fight.
God, next time you run a game for me, I'm just gonna bring over a large can of like Campbell's clam chowder.
Hey, it's homemade.
I'll eat it. Yeah.
All right. Tip your DMs, everybody. We'll see you around.
Thanks y'all.
Welcome to the dungeon with Harlan and Andrew.